odd one in that it's fitted with a Climax engine when normally they had Ford 10 engines. And then we have another big lose. They're really not hanging around, these leaders. There we have Jim Reddy's car snaking a little under brakes, and Ross Williams going right up on the outside, and it looks like Reddy nearly lost it. He has lost it. And so the lead goes now to Ross Williams in the Elfin Alpine, one of the very earliest of the Elfin sports cars designed by Gary Cooper.
Gary Cooper, of course, when we saw him down in the pits, and Gary's having a real busman's holiday away from Formula 5000 racing, looking at some of the cars he first built, Paul.
Well, this, of course, always reminds me of a Lotus 11, and I always thought, really, that it was a bit of a copy of a Lotus 11, but a very good car, nonetheless. And here's Ross Williams now, leading this race as he comes onto the main straight, followed by that TR, which I couldn't pick the number up, and I still haven't picked the number
I think it's 83.
Car 83, well, that's right. That's Laurie Cousins in his 1957 TR, a TR3 in fact.
Of course, Jim Jewett was responsible for an enormous number of fiberglass replicas of the Lotus 11 when Phillip Island first reopened down here, and probably in Victoria it'd be very hard to pick which is a Lotus and which is a replica.
Well, this, in fact, the car 28 there, now in the middle of the screen, that is a Lotus. It's down here as a Lotus 11 for Alan Bale, but it looks as if it's had a lot of bodywork modification done to it in one way or another.
That was the car built by Sid Fisher. It is a replica.
It really is a replica. It is entered as a Lotus. Now, that's why it looks so different to me, obviously.
Sid Fisher, of course, is here today. He built it with an Alpha engine, and it was a bit too new. It didn't comply, and it is now got the correct type of engine in it, and it's going particularly well at the moment. Alan Bale, of course, is a great MG enthusiast. We'll see now in his pre-war P-type MG.
Well, there's George Macon again in the Paul England build, I suppose, wouldn't it be? MG special?
That was the Paul England body, yes. George Macon going for a couple of slides there, and zigging and zagging, but they both picked them up and didn't get too close to each other there.
And that's our earlier leader, Jim Reddy, just having a little bit of a duel there with George Macon. And they're in third and fourth places, so it's worth Reddy's time to get up past Macon if he can.
Macon is doing his best to keep him out of the business there, and he's trying to out-accelerate him around the back section of the circuit.
Of course, they really are at far less of a disadvantage than you think, because they're all fitted with these narrow wheels. There's 42 going off. That's Dennis Russell in his MGTC special. But of course, they get through the water much better on these small, narrow tyres, don't they?
Well, it cuts through the tyre, cuts right through the water, and you don't find too many historic racing cars having aquaplaning trouble, Paul, because instead of the big, wide, flat, modern-day tread, they are very narrow, and quite a lot of them are just running ordinary radial rubber on the car.
There goes John Gray's Healy 100S, gyrating on the agricultural part of the circuit rather than on the bitumen. So it shows they really are having a little bit of a go. They're driving very valuable cars, but they're racing them too, and that's one good thing that I do like about these guys. They are prepared to have a go, although when they're driving the very expensive stuff like the ERAs we'll be seeing later on, and there we have a couple of marshals having to run for their lives as a car goes ploughing there on the inside of Goodrich, and there's another one, a TR, got off, so they really are beginning to go very agricultural. That is in fact the TR of, I can't quite see the number again. There I have Jim Reddy doing it very well. Now chasing the second place car.
That's the car 83, the TR.
Laurie Cousins' car, yeah, that's right, yeah, Laurie Cousins' car. So a pity that we don't see these chaps racing more often, because we would be far more familiar with the look of the cars if we did. But it certainly is well worthwhile having much more historic racing. How would you feel about that, John? And how would the movement cope with more racing for these cars?
Well, at the moment there's a meeting at Easter in Adelaide. There's a meeting in May at Surface Parasites, and there's another meeting in June at Winton. I think we then have a rest until somewhere around about...
This is a very difficult moment for Laurie Cousins as he goes off in a completely uncontrolled way at a very nasty point. Had he not managed to get that car over to the left a little, he would very likely have collected that aeroplane, as you can see there. I didn't want to say anything, but the man who owns that aeroplane nearly had a very, very big investment destroyed. The exhaust there hanging off. It really was airborne, as you saw from the very beautiful camera work. The cameraman followed it all the way through, and it was quite a way in the air and landed with a heck of a thump, which has dislodged the spare wheel cover at the back, and of course the exhaust system too. Now we have a yellow flag at Goodrich, and we're getting a replay of that event. Very frightening moment for Laurie Cousins.
All the wheels locked up, Paul.
Yes.
At full lock, completely out of control. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised if he gets a black flag when he comes back to the start-finish line.
Well, he can't be more than 15 feet from that aeroplane. Meanwhile, we've got drama here at Lukey. There's George Macon. Had a bit of a spin, trying to rejoin the circuit. Our race leader now. Our race leader is now at Austin Healy. We can't see the number. He's going round the back of the copse. And Macon, of course, has dropped back to 3rd or 4th place. Right.
Leading at the moment with the Austin Healy, and he's on his final lap. There's cars all the way around the circuit in just 4 laps, and here's a car from South Australia, the Riley, 2.5 litre Riley Special. It used to be a saloon originally, and a very, very quick motor car indeed. A very regular competitor in historic racing. You see the narrow Riley radiator and the wheels hanging right on the outside, and it's definitely got a wheel at each corner, not sort of overbodied in the least. Very good amount of bodywork. Long arm driving position, and he's giving it a heap, Paul, as he drives it down the back section of the circuit. Well, the leader now going round through Goodrich Corner in a great gaggle of motor cars. A Prad, that's the little yellow car, and it stands for Prix and Adams Prad, Sydney-based car, and it's powered by a Holden engine. Down the chute they come. Austin Healy, Healy Sprite.
That's Stuart Powell's car, is Austin Healy, another driver who races quite regularly. 4 laps of this circuit for these cars is quite a distance, considering that they are really not used to running on such a long circuit as this one here at Phillip Island.
I don't think that there's anywhere else in Australia, Paul, that the cars have such a long lap, because it's 3 miles around the island, and most of the circuits they're running on are on Mickey Mouse Mile circuits.
Right. And there we have Jim Reddy going snaking under brakes down into MGK Corner. Meanwhile, Bernie Bisseling is coming down to take the flag for a very well-judged and well-earned race as he picks his way through those back markers. A tricky situation for him. Another point about this is that many of these drivers only do 2 or 3 races a year and can sometimes be a little bit slow in getting out of the way of cars going through them. There's the flag. As Bernie Bisseling goes across the line to win the event 2 in this Phillip Island historic meeting.
This is one of the great MGs built by the Head brothers back in 1948, which has had some of the greatest successes, I suppose, in Australia. And today we have Peter Beasley, who keeps this beautiful little machine going. And I see on it, he's got some very nice wet weather tyres. In fact, quite amazing. I think he's got Pirellis on the front, and on the back you got some Michelins. Now Peter, is there any thing you've got in this? Is it giving you better road holding or what?
Well, it's a matter of we've got one set of tyres and that's it. We've got the original tyres on the rear that have been on the car for about 15 years, and I borrowed the front wheels and tyres from my TF to run today. We've got our general all-weather tyres, so we should be fairly good in these conditions.
Well, it's one thing that's a change from the new racing of today, like the old racing he's got here, from wet weathers and how long he's had these tyres. Peter, all the best with you, and keep it going. It's a good wet track. Right.